second graders. Today our reading lesson is going to be on figurative language, which is similes. Now we're going to learn a little bit about metaphors too, because similes and metaphors are very similar. They're a little different, but they're very similar. So let's learn all about a simile. If you look at this word, a lot of times second graders see the word smile, S-M-I-L-E-S, or smiles, but this word simile has an I in it. So when you sound it out, similes. Here is our top secret mission. We need to identify what are similes, and we're going to learn a little bit about metaphors, and we're going to use them to our advantage. So similes. A simile is a direct description that uses like or as. So I'm looking for these two words, like or as, to make a direct comparison. So if I'm going to compare two items, I'm going to use like or as. So this is an example of a simile. My hands were as cold as ice. Now, what are the two things we're comparing? I see the word as, that's usually in the middle. It looks like I'm comparing my hands and ice. So see how we're comparing these two things? It doesn't mean that your hands are actually ice. It just means that they're as cold as ice. So you can see the two words that are key in a simile. You have to have the word as or like. In this sentence, they use the word as. Lisa Lovemore swims like a fish. So here's a simile because we're comparing two things. We're comparing Lisa Lovemore and a fish. And I can see the word like. So I know this is a simile. So we're going to say that we're comparing these two things. She is not actually a fish, but she's swimming like fish. That must mean she's swimming a lot. She's very smooth. She can swim easily and quickly. So this would be a simile. And again, like I said, the word like is our key. We're looking for like or as. He was as brave as a lion. Now we're comparing he to a lion. So we are going to use the word as to compare them. And we're saying he's not a lion, but he's as brave as a lion is brave. All right, so here's the difference between similes and metaphors. Similes are a direct comparison, and they always use like or as. However, metaphors are like an indirect comparison, and they never use like or as. But some things that are the same in our Venn diagram is their description, they compare, and they're called figurative language. Now, figurative language is like symbolic, which means it creates a picture in your mind. And then it's not literal. So when I say he's as brave as a lion, I don't actually mean he's a lion. Or he swims like a fish, I don't actually mean he's a fish. So it's not literal. So literal means it's not what I actually say is what I mean. Okay? So here's an example, if you heard that noise. It says, my brother's room smells like a pigsty. So a pigsty is where the pigs live. And so we're saying my brother's room, and we're comparing it to a pigsty. So it's sticky, it's smelly. And my brother's room is a pigsty. Now this is a metaphor because we don't have like or as. We're still comparing it. It's not as direct, but we're still comparing it in an indirect way. So this is a metaphor. All right, now, why do authors use similes and metaphors? There's a couple reasons. It makes our language more descriptive and enjoyable. It's fun to hear those or read those or say those. It's fun. And it creates an image for the reader. So when I say a pigsty, my brother's room is a pigsty, I can picture that in my head. And it helps the reader connect with the text. Now, where do we find similes and metaphors? I will tell you that you'll find them in poems. For example, Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Right there is a simile. Or twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Right there is another simile. We see them in stories, like Rapunzel or Jack and the Beanstalk. She grew into a beautiful girl with long, long hair as fine as spun gold. So we're comparing her hair to spun gold. Or Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack and his mother were dirt poor. Dirt poor means they didn't have much money. We also see them in advertising. So if your mom and dad look in the newspaper, they might see them in like a Doritos ad. Tastes like awesome fields. Or maybe like a Sky Cafe. The Fort Knox of bird feeders is another example of how you would see it in a newspaper where they're advertising. They're getting you to try to want to buy it. Or sometimes in songs. For example, you are my sunshine. Or you ain't nothing but a hound dog crying all the time. Those are some really good similes and metaphors. All right, now we're going to stop here and I'm going to show you a video on similes and metaphors. And I think you'll enjoy this one. So please watch and listen carefully. Okay, so that was a cute little video telling us a little bit more about similes and metaphors. Now, today for your assignment, we are going to do our vocabulary strategy, which is on similes. So make sure you get out this page under Friday's work. It is 108. If you need to stop and pause the video and go get it, please do that. We're going to do a lot of it together because it's a hard skill and concept to learn. Once you get your sheet, make sure you put your name at the top. And Mrs. Murphy is going to make my page really big so you can see it. So when I write, you're able to view it and see it easier. So at the top of the box, it says a simile compares two things that are not alike. And it uses the word like or as to make the comparison. So down below, it says, number 1, we need to read the sentences, then answer the questions. So I will read the sentences, and then I want you to think, what is the simile? What are we comparing, and are we using like or as? So number 1 says, riding a roller coaster can feel like flying. All right, Mrs. Murphy found right away the word like. So I would like you to circle the word like. And it's at the end by flying. Okay, now, what are we comparing? What are the two things? So the first thing we're comparing is a roller coaster. And so we're going to write that on the line. So you can underline it like I did. And then write it. And then the other thing we're comparing is riding a roller coaster can feel like flying. We're comparing flying. So these are the two things that I need to write on the first line. Now, I want you to think, well, what does the simile mean? Riding a roller coaster can feel like flying. Well, if you're flying, you're high above the ground. If you're on a roller coaster, you're high above the ground. If you're flying, you're probably going fast. On a roller coaster, you're probably going fast also. So we can say they both. We can just say both are high and fast. That's what that simile means. Roller coasters and flying are both high and fast. Okay, if you need to stop and pause the video to catch up on your writing, please do that. Mrs. Murphy's going to go on so that you can unpause it when you're ready to go on. Number 2 says, a motor moves this chain in a loop. It is like moving at the store checkout. So right away, I see the word like. So I know I'm comparing two things here. I am comparing a moving chain. So a motor moves this chain. So it'd be like a moving chain, or let's just put chain. In a loop, it's like the moving at the store checkout. So the store checkout would be the other thing I'm comparing. Okay, so now I have to think, what does that mean? Okay, so if I have the chain that's moving, and like the store checkout chain, so if you think about when you put your items on the belt at the store checkout, that belt goes down and it loops and comes back around and then it loops back up. Just like a motor chain is looping. So I could say that they both loop. And here is that key word. They both loop. So we can say both loop. Okay, pause the video if you need to. Catch up on your writing. And then we're going to go on to number 3. Number 3, and the last one says, the roller coaster sound is as loud as thunder. So what two things does the author compare? So I can see the word as up here twice. As and as. So what am I comparing? I'm comparing the roller coaster sound. So this one's kind of a long one, so make sure you start way over here. Roller coasters, oops, coasters, sound, and then I'm comparing it to thunder. So that must mean it's pretty loud. Because I know when I hear thunder, thunder is pretty loud. So what does the simile mean? Mrs. Murphy kind of just said it. They both are loud, or noisy would be another one. So we can say both loud. And if you wanted to write and noisy, that would be a great detail to add. But for sure, please put they're both loud, because we know thunder is loud. We know a roller coaster sound can also be loud. All right, so this was our lesson on similes. Make sure if you need to pause the video, catch up on this last one, please do that. When you're done, make sure you're going to hand in this paper. And then today, we're also going to do our journal, which is our writing on similes. So watch the next video on how we can find similes and come up with what is being compared.